Hello guys, it's Robbie back with Mary TCG. Today we're going to be going over Shanks, and I have with me.
Hey guys, I'm Force from Mary TCG as well. Thank you, Robbie, for having me. Today we'll be talking about the leader Shanks. I've been enjoying this deck quite a while now, and I feel like I have a lot to talk about.
Just like the other videos, we're going to go over a deck list at the start, talk about some tech choices that you may want to play. I think the three leaders we're going to cover today are matchups against Teach, Luffy, and Doflamingo.
That's right.
As always, if you enjoy the video, leave a comment, like, subscribe, and let's get into it.
Let's get into it, guys.
Well, so let's get started with the deck profile.
Mm-hmm.
Your current list. I think you're playing 13 2Ks.
That's
at the moment
right.
With some counter events.
I'm playing the Red Hawk build right now. I'm gonna show this off in a second. So let's start with the 2Ks. I play 4 Otama, 4 Hongo. I play only 3 Lime Juice, and I play 2 of the OP09 Sanji. What to say? Otama, absolutely great card. This deck cannot work without it. Hongo as well, just another copy of Otama. And some people say it's better. Who knows? Lime Juice, I don't play it very often. And since I'm not running the Searcher Router, I don't really need it as a 4-off. And these 2K Sanjis are really good if you want to apply pressure, for example, against Blackbeard or NL. Yeah. This is for the 2Ks, and let's go over to the counter events. Like I said, I played the Red Hawk build, so I'm running 4 Red Hawks. I'm also running 2 Radical Beams and 2 zero-cost events. Red Hawk is an absolutely banger of a card. It's really good against...
Doubles up as a beige in life.
Doubles up as a beige in life, yeah, that's a little bonus of it. It's really good against Doflamingo. A lot of people play around it, but I still think it's very good to like KO the Teaches or small searchers. And it's also a 4K counter if you need it. Radical Beam, same thing, but it's like for 1 dawn, but you can only use it late game. And 2 0-cost, since my decklist seems to get pretty bricky, especially with these Red Hawks when I don't leave a dawn up sometimes. So I find them really useful. Let's go next to my blockers. I run 3 Lucky Roo and 4 of the Silver Rayleigh. Lucky Roo, amazing card against some matchups. For example, Purple Luffy. It's not as good against Doffy because it usually gets bounced back. But it's good against Purple Luffy. It's good against the Mirror as well. If you play it on 4, whatever they play on 5, you just KO it.
Yeah, key thing about the card, I think, is that it's actually great against every single deck that isn't Doflamingo.
Yeah.
Which is a bit of a shame, but even against like removal decks, like something like Lucci.
Yeah, it's really good against Lucci.
Yeah, they want to be clearing it while leaving like a body on field, which they just cannot do.
Mm-hmm.
Against Teach is a little hit or miss depending on how they're removing it, but they're not leaving it behind the body anyway if they're removing it.
Yeah, and it also can be good against BY Luffy, but most people play around it by playing Sabo blocker and protecting their characters from KO.
Extremely good against Purple Luffy, which is the matchup you needed the most.
Mm-hmm. That's why it's in the deck. I play 4 of the Silver Rayleigh because they allow me to cycle my hand. Like I said, I play quite a lot of breaks, so it's always good to have a cycle, and it's a +1 when you play it, and you get off the effect. As for my mid end, I play 2 and 2 of the Porges the Ace and the Marco. These cards especially, I like them. I like the ratio right now. It's really good against Black, for example, Lucci and Teach. They're very hard to remove bodies, and you always want to have bodies in the mid game to go into late. Marco, what can I say about it? The on-play effect, pop a Tricky, that's really good. If you want to pop like what was it, Lafitte Searcher from Blackbeard early, or even a teach against Doflamingo. Or if you're going first and you have a Hongo setup on your 3-down turn, you can activate it and kill a 5k body. Ace doesn't have the on-play effect, but it does not require you to have an event in hand for his ability to work, which sometimes is nice. And it cannot be...
The main utility for something like Marco is that when they do kill it, it comes back as a 5 cost where Ace doesn't.
Yeah.
But Ace is in general stickier. Like, you cannot bottom deck it, bounce it back to hand, trash it, or like bottom life it at all.
Yeah. Which sometimes I prefer the Ace, sometimes I prefer the Marco. It just depends on the matchup and the state of the game.
Yeah, when you need it, you'll see it. That's why it's that too.
Yeah. As to my high end, let's start with 4 Beckmans. This card is absolutely amazing. A red card that trashes based on power. What else can I say? It goes around your 5 cost Sabos. It goes around Burgess if they let you have on play effects. It goes around Marcos as well if you're playing against the Mirror. Lucky Road doesn't get the on play effect. Magellan's like so many uses for this card. That's why it's a 4-off, and it's also a 1k counter. What else can you want? I have 2 of the 7 cost Whitebeard. This is mainly for the Doflamingo matchup, which Shanks is struggling a lot. But
I think it's sometimes good against Doflamingo, sometimes not. Very much depends, but we'll go into that a bit later on.
When we discuss the matchups, we go into that. As to my other high end, I run 3 Rayleighs and 3 Dragons. I've decided on this 3-3-2 split. I used to run 4 Rayleighs, 4 Dragons, but I've decided to include these new gates into my deck, and it seems to be working pretty well for me. So I'm not missing a lot the 4 Rayleighs or the 4 Dragons. I always see them when I want them. So I think this ratio is doing good for me.
Yeah, Shanks is very much like what NL is, in the sense that none of your high ends are really searchable.
No.
But yeah, the biggest flaw with Shanks, I would say, is that drawing the wrong half of your deck. If you draw all bricks or draw all counter, is where this deck usually struggles a lot.
Sometimes it happens, but that's why you have Psycho.
Yeah. Red NL.
Red Katakuri most likely. As for my 10 drops, I run obviously 4 of the 10 drop Shanks from OP9, 1 Roger and 1 Shanks from OP06. This card absolutely amazing. It's a 4-off. I always want to see it in almost every matchup. Roger, a good game finisher. Sometimes it comes up, sometimes it's just a big body. And the tank on Shanks that pops a 10k or less can be pretty good. It pops your dragons, your 9 cost Kaidos. It pops
9 cost Zoro,
9 cost Zoro, 8 cost Kid. It has a lot of targets. 8 cost Moria. Rush Luffy secret from this set. Like, there's so many targets for it that I decided to include it. I used to run 2 Rogers, but I felt like that was too much.
The key thing to note about Roger for me is that the threat of it existing makes people have to play around it, kind of like what Louis does with Perfume Femur. You can kind of just play like you have Roger in hand, even if you don't, and people will just have to adapt and play around it to not lose the game on the spot.
Yeah, people say Shanks is a bait deck. I absolutely agree. You just have to bait your opponent that you have certain cards. And yeah, that's about it for my deck list.
Yeah, nothing is searchable.
No.
Which is a shame.
Except your Shankses.
If you want to play the searchers, yeah. Well, let's get into the some of the tech cards then.
Yeah, some of the tech cards for this deck can be mainly Yasop and Uta. So since I don't run that many red hair pirates, I think I run like around 20-ish, just 20. I don't see the appeal of playing Uta. I tried it, I missed a lot, and I absolutely hated it. So I stopped playing the Uta Searcher. But if you want to play the Uta Searcher, you absolutely have to include 3 or 4 copies of Yasop. This card can be good. It's really good against Blue Doffy. Can be alright against any other matchup, yeah.
Yeah, I'll be honest. Like, I'm not a big fan of Yasop.
Yeah, me neither.
I think the card is pretty garbage. In the mid game, the +1k just really doesn't matter, and in the late game, it's just way too late at that point.
Yeah, the late game is just a 1k counter.
What do you think about the 1-cost Searcher? Not Uta, the Searcher event.
The Searcher event? I've seen people play like 2 of it, but most of the decks that play the Searcher also play the Uta Searcher.
Yeah, it's like you would play 8 Searchers. There was a list that I think that won the Treasure Cup with it.
Yeah, I was playing 4 Utas and 2 of the Search events. So in total 6 Searchers. I guess that list just depended on seeing your combo, whereas Yasop, Newgate, 10 drop. Yeah. If you like your 10 drops, you like dropping the 10 drops and you have a lot of 2Ks, I say go for the Searchers. But since my deck wants to leave Dawn open for events, I don't play 10 costs that often. So I don't need to search for them, basically.
Moving on from Yasop then, the card I want to talk about is 9-cost Newgate. What do you think about 9-cost Newgate?
It's very, very defensive. Can be paired with the Yasop. So for example, play Yasop on 5, 7 Beard on 7, 9 Beard on 9. Can be good. It's a big body. It also removes 3k or less. So if you pair it with something, for example, Building Snake or Otama, you can remove like big bodies. And
it's only really good against Doffy, right?
Yeah.
It can remove a Bon Clay against the Luffys as well.
If the Bon Clay plays it like late game.
Yeah. And what do you think about the card against Red Purple Luffy?
This card against Red Purple Luffy? Since Red Purple Luffy doesn't play that wide, it only plays, for example, like 1 big body a turn, which usually get removed. It just swings twice big or 3 times, and I don't think that the plus 2k on your leader really matters, since they're gonna be swinging big anyway, for example 10 or 12ks. So, and the 3k or less effect never really pops up, so I would rather play like a Dragon or a Rayleigh. Moving on to other tech choices. Since I was running Radical Beam, some people prefer to run Guard Point instead, since Radical Beam you cannot...
I'm one of the Guard Point fans. I think Guard Point is a lot better.
If you want to defend early, if you want to defend your life early, you're not gonna get to your Radical Beams plus 4k, so instead you can run Guard Points to get like plus 3k in the early game. Sometimes that 1k matters, sometimes it does not. It's up to preference.
Yeah, it's Divine Departure. We'll maybe have the card pop up on screen from OP10. It also gives plus 3k, right?
Divine Departure, yes. Counter plus 3k.
They kind of do the same thing, but it just has more utility.
Way more utility because it has a second effect,
Yeah.
8k or less, and it's also searchable. It's a Red Hair Pirate.
Yeah, searchable if you want to play the Searcher.
There's also the Shanks build where you focus mainly on rush. For example, if you use 3-cost Zoros as your early game, Kirin Kiwara as your finisher, or Monkey D. Luffy 5-drop from the starter deck 1 as your like kind of mid game. The rush build mainly works against black decks, or actually it's really good in the mirror as well. I've not tested this build myself, but I think it can do well against the matchup it does well, but does really bad against the matchup that does bad.
Yeah, this was like kind of the earliest iteration of Shanks in the East.
Before
where people were playing this and some Animal Kingdom cards. Personally, I think like it's a bait. So like I would not go anywhere near it.
Yeah. So the deck went towards more of the control version, so people stopped playing these rush cards. Last card I want to talk about is Roundtable. 4-drop event gives something minus 10k for the turn. It's really good against big bodies that you want to remove. For example, if you have 7 Beard on board and you drop the Roundtable, you can remove practically anything.
Yeah, people are playing this for the mirror, mostly.
It sucks that it doesn't have trigger, and it's kind of a breaking hand if you don't have time to play it. But
it has some utility against Teach as well.
Yeah,
it's okay against BY.
If you bait a block from their 10-drop Teach and you play this, and then you can swing into it. Or even against a Burgess, if you really want to remove it. But I can see it as a one-off in most decks. At most
yeah,
two-off.
I've seen like Red Green Law play this a lot as like a 2-off. If you're convinced by that deck, you can go give it a try. With Roundtable, Red Green Law actually does okay against Teach and Shanks in this format.
That's all the deck choices that I wanted to talk about. So let's move on to the different matchups.
Yep. Should we start with Purple Luffy?
Yeah, I've got Purple Luffy right here. Purple Luffy is one of your harder matchups if you don't go first. Going first obviously makes this matchup a lot better. But
Luffy, probably one of the strongest decks in the game going first.
Yeah.
Very weak going second.
It's really dependent on the dice roll. You need to win that dice roll.
Yeah. Hard matchup even if Luffy gets to go second as well.
It's mainly hard because it goes very tall and wide, very fast. Because it ramps Luffy Taro into Sangoro Zorojuro. Two big bodies dropped at once that you can't really remove, and if you don't remove, then they drop something like their top end, for example, 9-cost Mama or 9-cost Luffy. The board becomes way too hard to handle, so you need to be very optimal against Luffy. For example, if they have a lot of 6k bodies in this scenario, 4-cost Lucky Roo is really good. You need
Lucky Roo being probably the key card that you need to see against Purple Luffy in the early game.
For example, if they have Sangoro and Zorojuro, they attack, you block, you kill the other attacker, and then next turn you can swing into Sangoro.
Yeah, Sangoro will always get a swing in this matchup, no matter what, which kind of sucks. I think the one thing, if Luffy gets to go first, it can do like really disgusting turns.
Yeah.
Like 4-cost Zorojuro into the 7-cost Luffy
into
with
the
Sangoro.
9-drop.
And then next turn, well, they will have to run 3 times to get to 9-drop. The more disgusting one that I find is actually Magellan.
Yeah, we can talk about that as well. If they drop Magellan after this, you'll be, instead of 8 dawn, you'll be on 7 dawn. So you have...
Yeah, and if you don't have a Lucky Roo, like the turn before, this is a very hard board for you to clear.
The most you can do is play Ben Beckman, and you have to decide whether you want to remove the Sangoro or the Magellan. Personally, I would always prioritize removing the Sangoro. The draw one is just too good. And if you remove the Magellan, they're gonna be a 6k attacker anyway. So I would always prioritize Sangoro and just remove the Magellan down the line. When you get to 10 down.
Do you prefer swing board or do you prefer going face? Because I find that Purple Luffy have a hard time swinging into board as Purple Luffy. Against Purple Luffy, sorry.
Against Purple Luffy, I mainly swing face and try to remove bodies by KOing, for example, with Rayleigh or Ben Beckman. Obviously, if I'm on 10 dawn, I would probably use my 12k swing to KO either a Luffy Taro or 9-mom. And just with my mid end, just swing into Sangoro or Zorojuro. Early game, I cannot go for board, so I would just swing face and try to pressure them a bit, so they don't use leader effect that easily.
Yeah, if you let them ramp 3 times with leader and still sit at 2 life, the game is probably lost at that point.
Yeah. Their top ends are usually Big Mom and Monkey D. Luffy, which are very easily KO'able by our
Yeah.
Tenko Shanks. So
Yeah,
look
usually
out for
people are
this card in
playing-
your matchup.
People are usually playing 2-2 of the high ends.
That's what I
Or
do, yeah.
3-2, depending on what you want to play. Three Mama is the one that you don't really care about as Shanks. Where I think the 9 drop Luffy.
Yeah, the
is a
9
lot
drop
more
Luffy is
problematic.
yeah, it closes out the game way faster than Mom. So
Against purple, there's actually is a boogeyman for Shanks, right? The big 10 drop from set 8.
the Mama
Yeah,
Kaido.
What's your solution to this card as Shanks?
If I see this card, if I don't expect it, I probably won't have like a Hongo setup or a Building Snake setup on like before that turn. So I will.
Not many decks are actually playing it. Maybe like certain Nico Robin builds.
Against Nico Robin, I
Black
will
Purple.
expect it. Against Purple Luffy, not so much. Against Red Purple Luffy, it can be played. I can see that. Normally, my plan is try to close out the game before they can use this effect. Or if I have 5-drop aces in handy, I would try to play them off because they cannot be killed by this effect.
Yeah, usually if Kaido Unlimited resolves against Shanks, I think it's just game over.
Mm-hmm.
Especially against Black Purple, whether that be King or Luffy.
Yeah,
Maybe you
that
can
card.
combo Black Maria and just start looping it.
That card is scary, but as Shanks, I don't think you should. There's a scenario where you let them play off this safely and not pressure their life. Key cards to look out for: Ben Beckman, not Ben Beckman, Bon Clay. Sorry. This dropped in late game is scary, very scary. But there's a lot of solutions to that. For example, your Marco, your Rayleigh, 8-cost Rayleigh, it's really good. Or if you run the 9 beards.
Like, a lot of the better players will not, like, if possible, they will not drop it on 4. Like, same thing like Purple if you want to do against Teach, is that as Teach or Shanks hit 10 down, they will just play out 2 Bon Clays, force you not to play the 10 drop, or else just get insanely punished.
Yeah, because that's a free 4-cost 12k body for them. And you have to focus on removing them. Other cards to look out for: 7-cost Sanji, 3-cost Usohachi. Make sure you always keep them in mind. If they drop them, can you survive? Then you can safely play a blocker. But they're not as scary as it seems. Sometimes Sanji, it's 7 down for a 7k attacker, and usually have a 10 cost on board, so it's gonna go down to like 6. So it's not that scary. Usohachi is like 3 costs, and it's way more scary because they have a lot more dawn to work with. And last card I want to talk about in this matchup is Gum Gum Giant. Play around it. Don't swing 8s. Don't swing. What are them? You should swing 6 and 7s if you expect a Gum Gum Giant. Make them waste it on like a small attack. But
7s, 9s, and 11s is usually
yeah.
the
Depends on
magic
how
number.
many swings you have. But that card
probably-
is good, but not that scary, in my opinion.
Probably the best cards, one of the best cards ever printed.
Let's move on to the next matchup we have. Blackbeard. I've seen a lot of Shanks players struggle with this matchup. It should be Shanks favored by all means, because you run so much rush that Blackbeard cannot keep up.
If you see Dragon, like, Blackbeard should not be able to win.
Yeah, the Dragon is a very important card to this matchup, as are all your 10 drops. A very common mistake I'm seeing in Shanks players is they're not focusing these guys. So as soon as they hit the board, you should be KOing them outright, either by swinging into them or removing them by on-play effects if you have any. Lafitte and Laboon, Blackbeard doesn't gain anything from them dying, so every time you need to swing into them. Dock Q, I would probably not KO it late game. If I see it early game, I would go for it, for example with Marco or Red Hawk. Van Ogre is a very scary card. It can be an attacker or -3. If they have a Van Ogre on board and have a Laboon, for 8 Dawn they can KO a tank drop. So Laboon and Liberation or Finger Pistol. Or if they have Van Ogre and Jack on board, drop a Laboon, that's a tank cost gone. So always prioritize these cards.
If you ever find yourself looking at 2 Laboons backed up with a Mancherry on board, the game is probably over.
Yeah, always focus the searchers first, because
you can actually let Van Ogre survive if you don't care about the swing every turn, and you would rather let Teach have like less cards. But with Laboon, because it's 5k, it's harder to defend for Teach, and it doesn't draw a card.
Yeah.
The -4 is actually a lot more significant than the -3 because two Laboons just kill a cost with Doku, where like 2 Van Ogres kind of.
Next card, Jesus Burgess. That's a very scary card for Shanks because most of the time, if it drops, you cannot remove it. A good Blackbeard player would stop your own play effects from happening, so you can use your Ben Beckmans or Otamas. The only way for you to remove it is if it's rested, you need to swing into it. Blackbeard most of the time should not have time to play this out. They should be focusing on removing your bodies. But if they have it out, for example with a 10 drop, you have to bait the block first and then play your 10 drop, so you can swing into the Jesus Burgess. Not this 10 drop, for example this. And they'll most likely let it die. Prioritize this because it's if you swing into this, it's most likely at 2k, or if you swing into life, they're probably gonna take it. So removing this is always better.
Yeah, I find that usually if they manage to develop a Burgess on field, something's gone wrong somewhere along the way for you. If you like, they usually want to be playing double Burgess on 9 or 8, which if you play a dragon, they should never have time to really develop the Burgess.
Exactly. You need to make sure you see your curve. So, for example, your 5 drop, your 7 drop, or 8 drop, and then 10 drop, respectively.
The one iffy thing could be if they go double searcher in the early game, actually, if you don't have like a small Uta.
For example, yeah, if you're running a build like mine and you're scared of double searcher, and for example you're going first, you can safely drop a Hongo, just to deal with the second searcher if it comes out. Or
yeah, so
if you have
on Teach's 1 Dawn turn, if they play out like Lafitte, on your 2 Dawn you should actually just play out the 2 Sanji in case they go double Lafitte on their 3 Dawn turn.
Yeah, every time I see this Sanji going second, I always drop it. I think this card puts a lot of pressure on Blackbeard, and when you swing in with it and they attack 5k, I most likely will lose Leader Vec 2k if they don't have any more swings left. I would protect this. But if the swings...
Sanji is actually a must-kill target for Blackbeard in this matchup, just because it can activate Roger down the line as well.
Your 5 drops, they can only be killed, for example, with Liberation, but they have to waste resources to bring them down to 4, for example, with a Stronger, and then have to use Black Hole and go neg1. So you don't mind it that much, but it's definitely that card to look out for. If they have it, then possibly don't play out these, but if you don't have anything else, just go for it. Another cards. We have 9-cost Kaido. I've seen some Blackbeard players play that card. If your first 10 drop is removed by a 9 drop Kaido, it's most likely not gonna go good for you. This card is not as scary as a 10 drop, but it still can be bad for you because it removes a body and makes you trash a card, but it's easily KOable by this 10 drop if the Blackbeard does not black hole you on 10. So you can drop this and KO this instead of playing rush body and going face.
Yeah, to try to prevent them from dropping like the Kaido, you usually want to be swinging quite aggressively. They cannot safely drop this Kaido if they're at 1 life.
Yeah.
Unless they have like a blocker on field already. Because if you just all-in life and threaten the Roger, they're in a very bad spot.
Exactly. Or even a dragon go 9/9. It's always scary to see that. So they should not really have time to play the 9-cost Kaido unless something has gone wrong down the line.
Yeah, if Teach opens stage early, it could actually be a little hard for you. But cheating the 10 drops back to back is very, very sore for
yeah.
Teach.
The stage is really good in the late game because it lets you search for 10 drop for free if you don't have it. So, and it also builds up your trash for the Burgesses. So stage can be tricky, but I don't think it's the end of the world for Shanks players. So yeah, I don't have anything to say about stage.
Oh, moving on to Blue Doffy.
Yeah, let's see, our last matchup that we're gonna look at is Blue Doflamingo. Safe to say best deck in the format right now and the deck to look out the most for. I would say Shanks does not have a very good matchup against it, but it's still very possible if you play it correctly. Cards to look out for is definitely this 2-cost Teach. You should be removing it anytime you can. For example, with Living to Dawn with Red Hawk or the 5-cost Marco.
Yeah, it's a little hard if you have 2 Dawn up going second. It's a little hard if they do actually play out like Jinbei as well, because you do kind of want to pop the Jinbei.
Yeah.
It is a lot of pressure for Teach. Like if they open the 2-cost Teach with like 3 or 4 Weevils, like the game probably ends right there against any matchup.
So if they play on their 3-Dawn turn, if they play a Teach into, for example, Jinbei into something, and I have a 2-Dawn up for Red Hawk, I would probably kill the Teach. Because next time I'm on 4, and I'll probably just go 9 Jinbei with 4 Dawn under my leader.
Instead of actually still minus the Jinbei no matter what. Some players will try to go Jinbei into
Law.
If they see you minus the Jinbei, they'll play Boa rather than Weevil sometimes.
Oh, or Boa, yeah.
And then if you pop the Teach at that point, they have like 3 cards left in hand.
Yeah. So you can bait out the minus if you minus the Jinbei, then kill the Teach, just go swing 9 into Jinbei, and like you said, 3 cards in hand, they're probably not gonna defend it. Or...
Yeah, they lose some of their combo piece with Boa down the line if they do that. And they lose a card in hand for not playing Weevil, and they lose the Teach.
Yeah, and something else I'm seeing a lot, if for example they have a searcher on board and they play off low with the leader effect, and you have to Dono but you don't have the Red Hawk, you can still minus the low, and they'll be probably baited to take it back to hand along with the searcher, so they'll clear the board for you.
That'll be a very bad player to be doing something like that.
I've seen those a lot, so it is happening. What else can we talk about? 6-cost Jozu. That card is sometimes can be problematic about against Shanks, because you cannot remove it very easily. You cannot bend back it or rally it. You have to invest into Onotama or a Hongo, or if you have a 10 drop on board, which probably not happen. So that
I've never really been a big fan of Jozu. I know like a lot of people were playing it. I was playing it as minimal copies just for the mirror, but like I've never been a big fan of this card. The only time Jozu is good against Shanks is that if you already have the 2-cost Teach on board. But at that point, like, you're winning anyway.
Yeah, you probably should not let them have the 2-cost Teach. But if they play the Jozu, they can only bounce back like your 5-drop or your 4-drop.
You actually can't bounce back that ace.
Yeah, Ace cannot be bounced back. That's what I was gonna say. It's really that's why sometimes it can be good if you don't have anything else to play on 5. It cannot be bounced back, but they'll probably not play Joseph. Just fill the board. So look out for that. Events to look out for against Doffy is mainly your Red Rock. What is it? The Raging Tiger and the Perfume Femur.
Yeah.
Red Rock, you're probably not gonna see it a lot because you're not gonna have time to play the 10 drop anyway. But if you have the time to play the 10 drop and they Red Rock it, they get left with only 4 Dawn left, which they cannot do much, especially in the late game.
Again, the Red Rock's only good if Teach is already on field.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, a lot of the Doffy events just aren't great against Shanks.
Yeah. We can see a pattern here where Teach is very important. We need to remove that card almost all the time. 7 cost. That's only good, for example, if you have 2 blockers or a blocker and a marker on board.
Well, actually, the one thing to note about Teach, the 2 cost Teach, is that builds that are typically playing Red Rock aren't playing a very early game heavy build for Doflamingo. I actually find that the Red Rock builds is actually a lot worse against Shanks than the early game centric Teach builds.
That's true. If Doffy goes very wide fast in the early game, it's kind of hard for Shanks to keep up.
Yeah, it could be hard. Like if Shanks goes second, Doffy will be at like 5 life the entire game. You open yourself up if you ever to go to 0, you could, or like even 1, you could get hit with like double Perfume Femur.
Yeah. But double Perfume Femur means they're gonna swing, for example, like 10-10.
No, like Femur one turn and Femur the next turn.
Oh, but that
yeah. Like, if you're on 0 and you have like a few Dawn up, they could Femur you one turn, and because you're going second as Shanks, Doffy's gonna have full life as you'll be swinging up board the entire game.
If Doffy is like on like 3 or 2 lives and I have quite a board build and they do the Perfume Femur or just swing 15 phase, I would probably go down to 0 if I know I can counter the next 15. I have a lot of events in my deck, so it's very easy to counter a 15 to phase, for example, to Leader Effect, 2 Radical Beams and 2k. You're gonna see that a lot in the late
with
game.
this build that we're kind of recommending, is a lot. You give up some of the early pressure against Doflamingo, but you're more likely to survive the late game if they do try to race you.
Yeah.
With the aggressive build.
Perfume Femur can be scary, but with this build, I don't find it as scary as it can be. A card I found really scary is Pudding, 4-cost Pudding.
Yeah, get this card banned.
This card should not exist. It completely changes the playstyle of every person that plays against a blue deck. You have to play around it. The way I play around it is I try to never be over 7 or under 5 cards in my hand. I try to stay around that spot. Mainly I try to like take 1 life per turn and counter the rest. If that's not possible, then I try to take 2 and hope I don't have to counter with 2 1Ks. Yeah, just to
sometimes
reduce my
like
hand.
if they just putting you for 6, like if you're going into a key turn where you want to be playing down like a Rayleigh, a Ben Beckman, or like the 7-cost Newgate.
Yeah.
And they just putting you the turn before and you don't draw into it. It's like really, really rough.
I mean, in that point, what can you do about it? If they're putting you, they're putting you.
Yeah, like,
you can't really.
It's not even about the card advantage that you're like going neg on. It's like, oh, I spent my whole game building up turns that I can just drop Rayleigh back to back and then get putting this. Like,
yeah, if you fix your hand with the 5-cost Rayleigh and then they drop bringing this and they completely ruin it afterwards, it hits very hard. So not really much to say about this card.
Even worse if they have Teach on board, they just get 2 down back.
And it's a 4k. They can put down and just attack. Last card I want to talk about is Tenko's Kaido. I see less and less Doffys play this card anymore, but late game it can be really a really huge pressure for Shanks because you can't really easily swing into it or KO it. So if they play it, it's most likely gonna stick on the board and they're gonna draw 4 cards for protection.
Yeah, if this card does resolve against Shanks, it is a little rough. As like in the West, we're kind of ignoring Peach as a deck, like Blackbeard.
Yeah,
It's not doing well. You can expect to see decks like BY and NL sneak back into the meta. And tank cost Kaido is usually really strong into Black Hill Luffy, NL, and even Teach. Sorry, not Teach, Lucci. As like they have to spend their Ice Ages early game to try to clear this.
So it's definitely a card to look out for in the next days of the meta. So is there anything else? Porco's Law, I forgot to mention it. Porco's Law is only good if you have like a Lucky Rune board, which you probably play it only as a last resort. If you know they have this card, then never bother playing this out.
Or Hongo, like you can bounce back your Hongo as well.
You can bounce back the Hongo, but it doesn't hit a card because Hongo is a 2k afterwards.
Well, thank you guys for watching. That's it for this video. If you have any other leaders you would like us to cover, do let us know. And if you find this useful, leave a comment, like, and subscribe. And we'll see you guys next time. Bye.
See ya.